Good evening. Welcome to Straight Talk. This is Eugene Chan, and our guest tonight is Mr. Raj Sital. He is the president of the Council of the Hong Kong Indian Associations. Tonight, we are going to explore how the Indian community in Hong Kong is helping compatriots back home to deal with the worst COVID-19 virus. Raj, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Yep. The COVID crisis in India is all over the news now. And then the latest news reported there are over 300,000 infected cases per day, with more than 4,000 deaths in the last 24 hours. Mind you, in total, there are like 24 million infected cases and more than 270,000 deaths. Is it that bad? Because sometimes we can only rely on the news. Has it been underestimated or overestimated?
I would say actually it's been underestimated. I think the cases are even more than that. As far as transmission cases are concerned, I think the second wave has been particularly bad as far as the transmission is involved of human-to-human contact.
Yes.
And not enough is being done to get the people vaccinated.
Right. So why do you think, from your understanding, why is it so bad compared to other parts of the world?
I think after the first wave, the economy started opening up. The government decided that there should be more people-to-people contact. And in particularly, we had large religious festivals where people were allowed to mingle and mix without wearing masks at all. And we also had regional elections, which allowed people to go out and campaign and vote. And this led to larger cases of human-to-human contact.
Right. I mean, if you look at the figures, although we are in the third or fourth straight day of fewer cases as compared to before, are you optimistic?
Yes, I am. I mean, they're actively producing more vaccine. From what I hear from the latest figures is by the end of the year, there'll be 2 billion doses of vaccine available to the people of India. So that will help a lot, I'm sure. And the government is actively encouraging people to get vaccinated as soon as the vaccine's available.
Right. I mean, we read from literature that India is actually the world's largest vaccine-producing nation.
Yes.
Up to 60 to 70% of the vaccines are produced in India. However, only 10% of the Indian population has first dose, and for those who have two doses, it's just under 3%. It's just under 40 million. And mind you, the Indian population is 1.35 billion. Why is it so low?
Producing the vaccines need raw materials, and the raw materials are actually not manufactured in India itself. So until these raw materials become available to the Indian manufacturers, pharmaceutical manufacturers, for them to produce the vaccine, that's why they're building it up very rapidly, and that's where the figure of 2 billion doses by the end of the year come from. And I think by that time, a majority of the Indian population should be vaccinated.
Right. You know, the Health Minister Harsh Vardhan saying that they have to boost the production of domestic vaccines. Also, they need it from import from other countries. Recently, we read in the news, say, from Russia was sending some vaccines. How long do you think? Do you think by end of year we have enough vaccines? Because you have 1.35 billion population.
I think the target is to get everybody vaccinated, but hopefully by the end of the year, we should have about 70% of the population vaccinated, and then the herd mentality will set in, and people, even with human-to-human contact, the people getting the virus will be less.
Right, I see. Okay. And also, I mean, as we know, I mean, India is a very big country. That when the pandemic is spreading to the villages, the impact should be even greater because, I mean, understandably, there will be a lower usage of masks. The rates of testing is more difficult and less accessibility to vaccines. How do you think the Indian government is going to tackle this quite an imminent threat coming up? Because as the virus is spreading to the outskirts, what do you think? What can they do?
Well, the main thing is the system of locking down the cities and the provinces to stop people from contacting each other. It's going to be difficult with such a large population, but I'm sure the Indian government is doing the best it can to do that without affecting the economy too much, because it's very much a chicken and egg situation. When you slow down the economy, it's bound to affect the growth.
Right, so you think the government will be able to tackle this because it's quite a huge challenge?
I don't think the government has a choice. If they want this disease to go away, they would have to do more and quickly to vaccinate the population.
Right. So we all would say that this second wave has hit very fast and very fierce. And some even say that it's worse than the US outbreak at the end of last year. And I think the most challenging part, as I was mentioned earlier, is running out of medical supplies and oxygen. And the WHO is extremely concerned about this variant virus. As a leader of the Indian community in Hong Kong, how has the whole community responded to what has been happening?
Well, the whole community has responded very positively.
Right.
We've been raising money since we first heard the news, and by now we've collected over $2 million.
Okay.
And we intend to do more. We've been concentrating on buying oxygen generators. Yes. To send to India. We have actually sent almost 1,000 machines already through the different various Indian organizations under the umbrella of the Council of Hong Kong Indian Associations. In fact, just yesterday there was a fundraising drive at the Sikh temple by two of the organizations which here, the Khalsa Divan as well as the India Association. So the efforts are ongoing. Our main problem is the logistics one of getting the equipment that we're able to procure, having it shipped to India.
Right. When you say $3 million, I mean, definitely it's not a small figure, but when you're talking about 1.35 billion population, can I say it's like a drop in the ocean? Why don't we increase your target a bit more?
We are. I mean, it's a moving target. We're asking everybody to do the best they can, but at the moment the problem is not even being able to move the equipment that we have purchased and send it to India because of the restrictions on flights and shipments to India.
Right. Apart from medical supplies and monetary, any other plans to help the Indian the community back home, so to say?
I mean, we're open to all suggestions. We're still, it's an ongoing effort to raise more money, and we're being approached by different organizations in India and trying to help them as best as we can. Right.
I mean, you are the president of the Council of the Hong Kong Indian Associations. I mean, how many groups of organizations actually under your council?
Under the council, there are 9 major organizations encompassing everything from religious to social to economic. I mean, at the moment, like I just mentioned, the India Association and the Khalsa Divan, which are both member organizations, were raising funds yesterday. The Indian Chamber is also actively involved, and also other Indian organizations are doing the best they can to raise funds to support people back home.
Well, how can the people of Hong Kong help? Because I mean, I do run into a lot of friends every day, and everyone is saying, wow, look at India. I mean, it's terrible.
All donations are welcome. They're tax deductible. All the organizations I have mentioned earlier have tax deductible donations if they're made to them, and they're happy to accept them.
Just now you mentioned that the logistics is an issue that you worry that the supplies may not be able to reach to the needy. And we have heard some of the supplies sent actually have been stranded at the tarmac and are not delivered. Should we still be sending them if that's the case?
The idea is to get the cooperation of the local authorities to clear these shipments as quickly as possible. And just getting it to India is problematic at the moment. So we will keep trying to do our best to get the equipment on the ground so they can be distributed.
Have you been contacting the airline to help? Or?
We have. We've talked to logistic companies. We've talked to airlines, and we're all working towards a solution, including we're working with the Indian consulate here as well to see what can be done.
Right. I understand that in Hong Kong there are just under 40,000 Indians of Indian descent living in Hong Kong.
I think we're over 50,000.
Over 50,000 now,
yeah.
Right. So the Indian settlement has been in Hong Kong for over 150 years, and I'm very happy to read that you have contributed significantly to Hong Kong. Even the Star Ferry, the University of Hong Kong, even the Refugee Hospital has been made possible by, I mean, a big donation or big support from the Indian community. Can you share with us what your fellow businessmen have done?
Well, the community has been here since when the British flag was raised as a British colony 180 years ago. And since then, there has been continuous growth of the community. In fact, since the handover, the population has doubled. There was around 25,000 in 1997, so our community has actually doubled in size.
Really?
Most of them are involved in trade and finance. According to government statistics, the Indian community handles about 5% of Hong Kong's total external trade. So it's quite significant if you consider the number of people that we're here. We have always been contributing to the Hong Kong economy, and we are part and parcel of the growth of Hong Kong. And I think that we will continue to do that. For instance, a lot of foreign communities are talking about exit plans from Hong Kong after the national security law. I think on behalf of the Indian community, I can safely say that we're very much entwined in Hong Kong, and we will continue to look forward to the growth and our success as well as in Hong Kong.
Yeah, very happy to hear. Has the pandemic affected much of the Indian community? As you know, apart from those locally born here, we have also those who travel over to work or to study. I mean, how has been the effect to them in Hong Kong?
There's a huge amount of trade between India and Hong Kong. The restrictions on travel, of course, not only affects business, but also affects the Indian community traveling back to India to visit friends and relatives. And hopefully, once this pandemic is under control in India, the flights will resume on a regular basis and we can continue the travel.
Yeah, we've got 20 more seconds to the break. Just want to ask you, has the local community here been targeted of any discrimination? The reason why I asked that is we had the gym clusters, we had the dancing group clusters. Has anyone have experienced that?
As far as the pandemic is concerned, I don't think there's been discrimination because we follow the rules and we try to stay within the bounds of social behavior which is acceptable in the norm under the situation.
So far, so good.
So far, so good, exactly.
All right, let's have a break and don't go away. Welcome back to Straight Talk. And our guest tonight is Mr. Sital. He is the president of the Council of the Hong Kong Indian Association. And we have been talking about the COVID crisis in India and how the Indian community in Hong Kong is responding to it. So Raj, in the earlier part, we talked about what we can do as Hong Kong citizens to support India. But you know, Hong Kong people has always been very generous to look at all the earthquakes in China, all the world crisis. We're always there to help. However, from what I watch in the news, seeing that some of the material has been stranded at the tarmac, or we are always worried that all our good intentions will never reach the people. How can we have some assurances so that I can go out and lobby for more support for this good cause?
Well, we have the assurances from the Indian government that whatever supplies are coming in will be used in a proper manner. And there has been some privileging among the medical and other supplies that have landed at the airports. But I think that's under control. And I cannot guarantee 100% of what is being donated will reach the ultimate end user, but I would say, but I would say definitely a huge majority of that is reaching the targeted.
Right. I mean, people, earlier news, yes, we were told that there are 2,000 Indian Hong Kong residents being stranded in India. Are there any plans to help them coming back from your council? And are you worried this may initiate a new wave of infections in Hong Kong?
To be frank, the numbers have shrunk considerably recently over the last few months as people who wanted to come back have made their ways through other means, through indirect flights, through other countries. And because of that, the numbers that are involved are much fewer, maybe just in the few hundreds. And with the current lockdown of flights coming in from India, I think it's going to be difficult until the second wave, the pandemic, slows down and there's more positive news out of India.
Right. Earlier, we talked about the Indian community being settled here for over 150 years, and a lot of significant contributions has been done by the business people at the time. Can you share with us, I mean, what is your experience being, you're locally born and bred and raised in Hong Kong, and you speak perfectly fluent Cantonese as well. How do you say to the government, how is the Indian community developing? I mean, I'm really admiring the fact that being a Hong Kong, part of Hong Kong, and you're still keeping a lot of your cultures, which I really admire.
Well, the cultural part of it is we're very much involved in what's happening in India, and we're taught at a very young age that to respect and the culture of our home country and particularly the religious aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as our upbringing in Hong Kong is concerned, we're part and parcel of the development of Hong Kong, but there are many times we feel that we're not treated as equals.
Really?
For instance, myself being a case, my family's been here 3 generations. I was born and raised here. In fact, some of my friends tell me my Cantonese is even better than my English.
I can testify to that, yes.
Thank you. But having said that, if I were to apply for an SAR passport,
Right.
I still have to be naturalized as a Chinese citizen first.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Whereas as opposed to any Hong Kong ethnic Chinese would just walk into the immigration department and apply for one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still, the platform should be equal for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're born in Hong Kong.
Like I said, we've been here, literally, the family's been here 3 generations, born, raised. My children are born and raised here as well. And we're as much a Hong Kong belonger as anybody else.
Mm. Has it been brought up to the attention to our administration?
It has many times.
Right, okay. And hopefully we'll get that done soon.
Hopefully.
Right. Let's go back to, we talked about the pandemic and then the actual diseases, and let's talk about some business aspects. I mean, you are a businessman yourself, and knowing that India is the world's 5th largest economy, I mean, how devastating has the effect of this pandemic been on the Indian economy?
It has. During the first wave and up until the end of March, the GDP decline in India was just over 8%, about 8.2%. And we were hoping for a reverse of that trend in this current financial year of an increase of 7 to 8%. But now, according to, I think, the latest IMF forecast with this second wave, it will be down to 3 or 4%. And hopefully that will continue and that there will be no further decline, and this situation will be under control soon.
I mean, how is this going to affect India's economic relationships with the rest of the world? I mean, the reason being that we know that India provides a lot of back support for the healthcare and financial sectors for the United States, the Western Europe, or Australia. And as we said earlier, India provides 70% of the world's vaccines. I mean, how is this going to affect the global economy? And how long do you think this impact will last from your anticipation?
It will definitely continue to affect the world economy because of the size of growth, the size of the Indian economy.
Right.
As far as producing pharmaceuticals is concerned, I don't think that will stop. It will continue. Of course, now the concentration will be on the vaccine. But this is a temporary phenomenon. I think my personal opinion is within the next 6 to 12 months, most of the people will have the vaccines,
right,
and life will hopefully get back to normal soon.
So with all these, do you think Hong Kong will be impacted because of the sort of downturn in the economy, because of the huge crisis in India? And how shall we prepare for such changes, do you think?
In fact, among the Indian traders in Hong Kong, we see an uptake in PPE equipment going into India because of the pandemic. And in the business, there has been a growth in certain sectors because of that. Overall, generally, as far as the trade numbers are concerned, I think there will be a small downturn, but not significant.
I mean, earlier I'm very happy to hear that the Indian community, especially the business side, is very confident, I mean, of the Indian situation, also of Hong Kong. Being a Hong Kong-born person, I mean, how likely or how keen are you going to develop into the Greater Bay Area, which is a much talked about area, which is to have the 10 times the population of Hong Kong, and I mean, it's a very big area. I mean, what is your take on that?
Well, among the Indian community, we're all very, very positive of the whole idea of the Greater Bay Area, because majority of the products we source from China,
right,
and we sell all over the world. I mean, our major markets are actually the developing economies, Africa, South America, and we've been doing this for generations. In fact, this will just provide more opportunities for us to move further into the southern part of China and increase our business and hopefully our profitability.
Right. So far you've been concentrating your business in the Greater Bay Area. But do you think the recent new talks in Greater Bay Area, does it provide more opportunities?
Sure, because there'll be better integration. Again, when it comes to integration, it's also the ability for us to work within the area. like I said earlier, the Hong Kong Indian community, majority of us have been here for almost all permanent residents, but yet they still have difficulty traveling to China because they do not hold SAR passports. The one improvement that would be of significant help to our community, in fact to all the ethnic minority communities, is if we can travel into the Greater Bay Area just with our Hong Kong permanent ID cards.
Right.
Okay, that does not require to apply for a visa. I mean, for me, it seems a bit strange. I live in part of China, right? Hong Kong, a specific administrative region of China. Yet I have to apply for a visa to travel into China because I do not hold an SAR passport.
Right, so that is actually causing a bit of a hurdle for the Indian business community in terms of ease of getting into the mainland.
It's not, I mean, of course, the Indian community in particular, but actually it's all permanent, non-Chinese permanent residents in Hong Kong.
Right.
Who can actually take more advantage of what's happening in this area, but we're unable to because of the freedom of movement.
Has it actually have slowed down your investment or your work in the Greater Bay Area?
Personally, for myself, no. But I can see situations where it can be, especially with the lockdown in China at the moment. But I guess that has more to do with the pandemic and the current situation, and hopefully it'll improve soon.
Right, I think at the last part of the show, I want to ask you a question that has not to do with the Indian community, but by the American Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. It had a recent survey on some of the members. They're saying like 40% of the expatriate organizations that they surveyed are considering or are planning to leave Hong Kong. Is this experience amongst the Indian business community?
On the contrary, we have probably more Indian businessmen trying to move into Hong Kong and grow their businesses here, given the opportunities of selling into and buying from China.
Right. So given what has happened in Hong Kong for the last couple of years, I mean, we had multiple issues, especially the last few years. Do you think your members are still finding Hong Kong a very attractive place to do business in? And what are the incentives, do you think?
The incentives has always been the same. The freedom of movement, the financial system we have here, the legal system we have here, which is very conducive to trade.
Right.
And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So people are still coming in here to set up their businesses and to trade.
Yes. So I mean, on top of what we said earlier about the visa requirement and getting passports, what are some of the drawbacks, in addition to what we've said earlier, that you think your members have faced that will have stopped them from actually pouring everything into Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area? Is there anything?
The biggest is cost of living in Hong Kong. Real estate, housing.
Housing.
That doesn't just apply to the Indian community. It applies to, I think, everybody who's in Hong Kong. The cost of living.
Right, okay. So thank you, Raj, for coming to show and sharing with us the latest update. And so I think tonight we have seen how the crisis in India is affecting the rest of the world. And we must remember, together we fight the virus. And it is so true that no one is safe until everyone is safe. Have a good week and see you soon.